In this presentation, we will take a look at multiple choice questions related to governmental accounting, going through those questions and then practicing test-taking skills with them. First question, which would record depreciation? Either A, internal service fund, B, debt service fund, C, general fund, D, capital projects fund. Let's go through this again, process of elimination. Which would record depreciation? Now, when we're considering depreciation, we're considering the type of funds we have, and the types of funds, it'll differ based on what type of accounting basis we use. In other words, do we use an accrual basis or a modified accrual basis? That's what we're really looking for when we're considering these different types of funds. Those are the two types of bases that would use. We know that we record depreciation normally in for-profit type of accounting. Therefore, we would record it if the fund is using a normal accrual basis type of accounting as opposed to the modified accrual type based accounting. So really the question comes down to which of these funds are using a normal type of accrual accounting and which is going to be using the modified type of accrual accounting. There's going to be three types of funds. The one type of fund, the main type of fund, the governmental type funds. Governmental type funds use the modified accrual type basis of accounting. And then we have the proprietary funds. Those typically use the accrual type basis of accounting. That's usually what we're looking for. And then we have the fiduciary funds. So I would be looking for then the proprietary funds here, because that would be the main one that would use the accrual or government-wide activity, the government as a whole reporting at the government-wide level. So we have A says the internal service fund. That's one of the proprietary funds, that and the enterprise fund. So I would think that it would use an accrual basis and therefore record depreciation. B says debt service fund. That's a governmental type fund. Governmental type funds have a modified accrual basis. They don't record long-term assets like property, plant, and equipment and in the same fashion, and therefore they won't have the related depreciation. Then we have the general fund, also a governmental fund, same scenario. And then the capital projects fund, also a governmental fund, the governmental funds being the largest category of funds, and therefore it being a modified accrual as well. So final answer A, which would record depreciation? A, the internal service fund. Next question, which is different of a enterprise fund and internal service fund? Either A, the accounting basis, B, primary customers differ, the amount of fund financial statements, or D, the measurement focus. And note that B should be primary here. So we'll go through this again, process of elimination, which is different of the enterprise fund and the internal service fund. So considering these two funds, what we would first think about, well, what type of funds are they? Well, there's either the governmental funds, the proprietary funds, or the fiduciary funds. These are both proprietary funds. These are the two types of proprietary funds: internal service fund, enterprise fund. So those types of funds, one of the reasons we group them together is because they use the same accounting bases. So that's not the distinguishing factor. The accounting basis, then number A, not the distinguishing factor. They're both proprietary funds. They both use an accrual basis of accounting. Primary customers differ. You would think that might be one of it. That might be the differentiating factor, because you have an internal service fund, which you would expect being focused on internal government procedures, as opposed to the enterprise fund, which is actually an external fund, typically focusing on customers outside of the government. So I would think B, let's read the rest of them. Note the amount of fund financial statements. Typically, you would think the financial statements would be the same in essence or similar, because they're both using fund accounting. They're both in the same type of fund category using an accrual basis. D says the measurement focus. And again, you would think, considering they're both using accrual basis and in the proprietary funds, they would have a similar or the same measurement focus. So final answer B, which is different of enterprise fund and internal service fund? B, primary customers differ, being internal customers, internal service fund, versus external customers for the enterprise fund. Next question. Which statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund net position is prepared for? A statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net fund position is prepared for either A, both proprietary and governmental funds, B, proprietary but not governmental funds, C, governmental but not proprietary funds, D, proprietary, fiduciary, and governmental funds. Let's go through this again using the process of elimination. A statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund net position is prepared for. Now, if you're like me and you're reading these type of financial statements, you can kind of get an idea of what type of financial statement it is, but it might also, kind of make your eyes roll over with how long the names are of the governmental type of financial statement. So, but if we break this down and think about it, we're going to say, okay, a statement of revenue and expenses, that sounds like it's going to be similar to an income statement. So we have revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. So next thing we want to think about is there anything about this statement that can tell me whether or not this is dealing with a governmental type fund using a modified accrual or some fund that's using an accrual basis like a proprietary fund? And the terms that do that, mainly this expenses here. If we were using, that tells us that it's going to be using an accrual, more of an accrual, it will be using an accrual basis as opposed to the modified accrual, which would use expenditures. So we have expenses as a key term, and we have the fund net position. If we were using a modified accrual, oftentimes we would be using a fund balance as the name, as opposed to net position. So those two things tell us we're dealing with an income statement because we have revenue and expenses type of statement, income statement type statement, and we're dealing with something that's got to be on an accrual basis. Now we want to think about, well, what type of funds are on an accrual basis? Governmental funds are on a modified accrual basis. The proprietary funds are the ones on the accrual basis if we're talking about funds, as well as the government-wide activities using the accrual basis. So if we go through these, then we have both proprietary and governmental funds. I would think proprietary, not governmental. B says proprietary but not governmental. I would think that would be the one, B. C says governmental but not proprietary funds. That's backwards. It's not governmental, and it is proprietary funds. And D says proprietary, fiduciary, and governmental. And again, governmental is eliminated, so it can't be D as well. Final answer, a statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund net position is prepared for. B, proprietary but not governmental funds.